Hey guys, so I really wanted to do this video. I felt led to do it. I'm sorry, it's the end of the day, so I'm a little tired. I might be a little slow. And as you guys know, I've already said that I have moved on from this channel and I have other things that I feel the Lord was leading me to do elsewhere. As you guys know, I've been doing lives for about 2 years talking about this channel called Seek Heavenly Things and Mandi on there, and I've been using that situation to teach about a few fundamentals that people seem to not really understand. Some people do understand it and many people don't, and that's why they are being deceived by people like Mandi. And I see this actually in the church as a whole come up again and again, and I actually personally believe it's the spirit of Antichrist, and that's something I'm going to talk about later in this video. But you know, maybe there's information in here that may be edifying to you, but also this video, I want it to serve as a warning to people who associate with Mandi, whether in love, whether in hate, whether in sympathy, or just even quite literally like following her. And so I'm going to tell you guys this stream, and I want to break down some of the things I learned from the stream and also how it applies to Mandi. And this is so important for everybody because, you know, I truly believe that people don't know what's wrong with a lot of witchcraft, or they can't identify it. And this is something that the Antichrist, I believe, will use and appear like Jesus. And it's going to feel so good. It's going to look so good. And it's going to seem so holy. And it's actually because witchcraft actually is supposed to mirror and resemble our walk with Christ and the gospel and all these things. And I'll talk about why, and I'll break it down. As we know in the Bible, God talks about getting to know our enemy so that we're able to, you know, have the armor of Christ and be able to recognize the enemy and be able to, you know, bring up our defenses about the enemy. So please bear with me if you disagree and you agree with Mandi and you are watching this video, which I'm sure a lot of you will. I just want to say first that I really love you guys, and my heart really breaks to make this video. Like, I don't do this. Trust me, there's so many things I would rather be doing right now, like hanging out with my husband. But I'm here because God put it on my heart to do this, to talk about the things that he's been showing me. And it is from a place of love, and I know that's hard to understand. This also will be my last video on this. It will be my last time interacting with Mandi and that channel. And Mandi, I really hope you're watching, because I believe this is going to be super edifying for you if you really can take this and consider what I'm saying, and just woman to woman, you know, human to human. I just hope you can hear what I'm saying. And I want to do this publicly because, you know, Mandi won't hear it if I say it privately. So it's really important. Yeah, it's really important to say it publicly. So, you know, first of all, I just wanted to say, you know, I want to say, so I've been friends with Mandi since 2023, the very beginning of that year. And, you know, Mandi is in person, you know, Mandi's a very lovely person. She's very kind. She's very sweet. She, you know, I'm gonna be very frank in this video. You know, I do believe that she has narcissistic tendencies. You know, I'm not here to diagnose. She is still very kind. She knows how to, you know, pull on your heartstrings, and she's there for you, and she, you know, cries for you, and I think she really does care. Like, she's actually so sweet. You know, meeting her even face to face, like, she's very sweet. You know, she wants to give hugs. She's bubbly. You know, like, she's very positive. Okay. And the reason why I say that is because it's really important to understand that, especially with Mandi's followers who are listening to this, when I use words like witchcraft, when I use words like Luciferianism, and I'll use other words that are, you know, like about demonic sort of things, you know, subject matter, you know, people, especially Christians, get very immediately up in arms. They get almost like afraid, they get uncomfortable, and it almost feels like they think that I'm saying, like, Mandi is, you know, with her cauldron and she's chanting stuff, like putting, you know, I'm not going to say like, you know, like think about the files that have just come out, like this terrible sort of stuff. And I want to say, you know, Satanism and Luciferianism does not always appear in this manner. Okay. So in those sort of areas, you know, in a lot of these conspiracy things, you know, we hear satanic testimonies, you know, it's very obvious, it's very in your face, and it's quite evil. But the, you know, the spiritual realm that is fallen is very, very, there's a lot of variety there. And there are, and even Satan, you know, the Antichrist Spirit, the whole point of the Antichrist Spirit is to appear like Jesus. And so Jesus, to especially many lukewarm Christians, but like, and also like non-mature Christians, but in general to Christians, Jesus appears, you know, it feels good to say, oh, he's white, he's golden, he's lovely, he's pretty, like not literally pretty, but like, you know, this the way he acts, and it's like lovely, and it feels so good, and it feels so up, and ascension and brightness and glory. And like, I don't think Christians really know, not Christians, sorry, I don't know if humans really understand what is true glory. And, you know, for example, in the Bible, it describes God as being shrouded in darkness, in mystery. You know, he's within the whirlwind, and he's terrifying, and he's grand, and he's beautiful, and he's hidden, you know, and Jesus is God. So he doesn't always appear in the way you think. And a great example is the cross. Like we have the privilege of looking back and seeing the cross as being like this wonderful Christian Jesus, like love, like amazing, profound, like image. But ultimately, if you think about it, and especially at the time, it was very hard to comprehend, because there's supposed to be this conquering king who comes in with majesty and glory and the power of God. And he's, you know, the power of God has been shown again and again in the Old Testament. And it's like, how can this lamb that was slaughtered, you know, without any, you know, he just went like willingly, and he was, you know, tread upon and spit upon, and he was like put, you know, to deletion. I don't know how much I can say on here, but to deletion, you know, in such a way that is of a criminal, and it's of a, like, and even the first image of him, if you look in history, archaeologically, it's literally a donkey on a cross. Like, this is the first depiction of Jesus, and it was somebody making fun of a Christian. Okay, so, you know, a follower of Christ, right? That's what Christian means. And it's like, how can a donkey be the king, you know, the king of the universe, like, right? Manifest. It's so strange to people. And so in this way, I believe that people often have a hard time to understand, like, what is holiness? What is, you know, God's glory? What's his presence feel like? Like, who really is God? Who really is Jesus? And because of that, you know, you have so many Christians who attribute this feel-good feeling and this, you know, humanistic way of thinking of holiness and greatness and glory, the glory of God. And they apply that to situations, and they call that discernment. And that's not discernment. It's often driven by human fear and also judgment, human judgment. So in this instance, I say that because I want to say that when I talk about these hard labels that sound very, they're very hard, you know, blasphemy, like heretic, like, you know, witchcraft, like all of these are real terms, and they can be applied to somebody who means so well, okay? And, you know, a great example, if you want to see this dichotomy of what I'm talking about, is John Dee. You can look him up. He is the literal creator of Enochian magic, and he was a Christian. He claimed to be a Christian. He wanted to speak to God, and he wanted to communicate with God and communicate with holy angels, and he was all about holiness and grandness and glory and all this whatever, you know, that type of stuff. And yet he contacted demons, and he could not understand that it was demons because they seemed so great. They seemed so majestic and holy, and he couldn't, you know, accept this seeming paradox in his head. And this is what it means when it says that the enemy disguises himself as an angel of light and also as a sheep. Okay, he's a wolf in sheep's clothing. Okay, and so And this is the spirit of Antichrist again. I really want to emphasize that the spirit of Antichrist will look like Christ, what people think Christ is. But there's going to be fundamental differences, and I'm going to talk about that, and I'm going to use Mandi as an example and her teachings. And so I wanted to talk about that. Like, there is a dichotomy, and a lot of her followers can't understand, like, how such a nice person, how could I be so mean? And they go into this protection mode. And I do want to say I understand that, because I did the same thing. As you guys know, if you've been following this channel, I made a video where I said I stand with Mandi. I think that was like more than 2 years ago now. It was back in 2023. And that was around when my dad was dying. Okay, so if you guys have been following the channel, you know, and the situation, you know that my dad, unfortunately, he passed from cancer back in 2023 at the very end of the year. And it was a very emotionally terrible time. I just want to say, you know, we even in our neighborhood, we had a very beloved man who is just really part of the community, and he passed away from self-deletion, right? Because his father died, and it was really hard for him to overcome. So I know some people, I do understand, like, if you haven't had a parent die, it's very, very hard on yourself, okay? So I was very blinded, and I want to say with Mandi and this group, so I started out, I just quickly want to say this is really important, especially for Mandi's followers, and also people who oppose Mandi and who don't understand. They're kind of just hating everybody, and they come on, you know, comment and they don't understand, like, why I did things the way I did. So I talked about these in my lives with Anna, Sean, and Sarah. They were also part of this group, which is now a cult, like I said, and I was part of that. We did lives, but it might be too much information in one, so I'm going to try to fit it all in this video. So my apologies if I'm going too quick. But I was friends with Mandi the first out of everybody. This was back in the very beginning of 2023. And I was also friends with Cassie, and I brought Cassie and Mandi together. And this is probably one of the biggest motivations of why I have been breaking down everything that they've been saying desperately to, because I do feel, you know, guilty about that. I feel guilty that I brought them together. But unfortunately, that's what happened. I had no idea this is how it was going to turn out. But at the beginning, we were just talking about Jesus. It was the first Christian friends that I've had online. So I was just excited to talk about Jesus to someone 24/7, because my friends are not that type of, they don't really like to talk about Jesus. It's been hard. I've lost a lot of friends as a result of you know, drawing closer to Jesus and such. And so at the time when we met, we were talking about very normal, you know, Jesus stuff, nothing weird. And Mandi began to just add people to the group. She said, you know, she felt like she had to add this person, that person, and then another, you know, one of the people would add another person or ask Mandi if it's okay. And it just kind of ended up going this way. Mandi is very outgoing, so she kind of like took control of everything and was like the one most, you know, talking. I'm more of an introvert, so I kind of like, you know, I'm there, and then I just kind of am out, and I'm very busy. I'm a mother as well. You know, Mandi's not a mother, so she probably has a lot more time on her hands, and that's fine, you know. And so it started out that way, and then it started very slowly going into this rapture thing, and Anna and I have talked about it. It was very explicitly Mandi who turned this into, we are waiting for a specific date. Okay, so then these dates started happening, and these lives started happening, and it was very much this pressure. And at the time, I didn't really think about it. I just was trying to be a good girl, you know, like following, I just was trying to follow Jesus. Like, I don't know, like you know, this was the first time I really was even focusing on Jesus. You know, I was in a very worldly place before. And so I was just swept up with this, like trying to be good, you know, and you know, my family is very old fashioned, and it's very much about like hierarchy and respecting elders. So I was like younger, and I just was trying to like follow after what was happening. And it kind of, and I'm also like, okay, I do want to say this sounds kind of silly now that I'm older, but you know, my whole life I grew up as like a girl's girl. Like I was very like, you know, stick with your girlies, like be there for them and protect them. And so you know, Mandi would always tell us like how she had such a horrible marriage and all these terrible things, and her ex was treating her very badly. And I do believe a lot of that was like a lot of fronting, like there's lies shifting, and it wasn't as bad. Like everyone has problems in their marriage and everyone has hard problems, okay? It's not like men are perfect. So now I know better. But at the time I was like, I feel for you, like I'm there for you. Like, and so I kind of developed this, and this is like it is a narcissistic tendency. It's also a tendency of like cult leaders to like make you feel emotionally attached to them. And so I was trying to like support her, and this is why the whole live happened where I muted her husband because he was like going on a rant and he came in uninvited, and it was like me being like, don't even think about it, you know, because it was like months of, well, not like months and months, but it was a few months of hearing this like story. Like it was kind of like a sob story. I'm gonna be very honest with you. And I'm not saying it wasn't hard for her, and I don't want to comment too much on that, but I'm just saying that's how that happened. And from people's, you know, public view, it seems they don't see the behind the scenes. So I'm laying this out to show you that this whole group was organized in a very like heart to heart, like friendship, you know, protecting each other kind of way. And it was very like emotional, and I'm not very emotionally intelligent, so I got swept up in it, okay? And from about there, my dad started getting very seriously sick, and he was dying, and it was pretty much the worst year of my life. And so I was very torn in between this group and my dad. And, you know, basically from there all the way until early 2024, very early 2024, that whole season, I know Mandi was putting out a lot of public videos. I did not watch them. I was not careful to watch them. I just heard all the sob stories of people coming at her and attacking her. And so my response, like, and so I have my own relationship with God. I'm going through my dad passing slowly, and, you know, passing in December. It was literally the darkest time of my life. And I'm also trying to deal with Mandi, you know, saying all this whatever about public issues, you know, and it's just, I don't have the headspace. So, you know, here and there, and I have a lot of text to prove this, here and there I was, you know, telling Mandi, I'm like, these things that I keep hearing flashes of, you know, it's not biblical what you're saying. And we'd have arguments, and, you know, it just would happen again and again until it came to a climax in the early 2024. And so again, I'm saying all of that to show, especially people who are following Mandi, that I understand that when you're inside something and the person is like slowly bringing it, like Mandi, like I am convinced that the spirit that speaks behind, like the speaking all these messages, it knows how to like slowly grip people. And it's like a boiling frog, like she slowly brings in the crazy. And obviously now it's like getting worse and worse. And the very unbiblical teachings and the witchcraft, and I'm going to talk about that in a second. And she's so sweet the whole time, like, and I think she really believes, I know, Mandi, you're probably watching this, like, she really believes that she is, this is all real, and it's all Jesus. So it feels so good, it feels emotional, it feels like heart to heart, friend to friend. I have known these people for so long, and there's such a camaraderie, and that is a cult tactic. I know it feels good, and the flesh loves it, and it feels lovely. Like, how can this be evil? How can this be bad? And that's why I'm kind of laying it out, that that sort of thing can blind you. And it's what led me to, you know, want to stand for Mandi without really taking seriously the stuff that is happening spiritually. You know, and so there's almost this dichotomy of like the physical stuff of like friendship and, you know, connection. And then there's this spiritual aspect that's like slipping in through all the cracks, and it's like getting worse and worse and worse. And so I wanted to say that to just, you know, hopefully people can just understand that not everything is so black and white. Just because somebody is doing something evil doesn't mean it seems so obvious when you're looking at them. It's even like, for example, like I said, all the files that are coming out with Jeffrey, I'm gonna just say that, you know, it's very evil what he's doing, what he did. Okay, very, very disgusting, satanic, evil stuff. And yet, when you see him in an interview, he seems put together, he seems normal, he seems sane, and yet behind the scenes, he is literally like manifesting demons. He's very evil, okay? And it's not that he is evil, like he is evil, he's choosing to do evil things, but it's the source of the evil. These are unnatural things to the human. It's coming from the demonic, okay, into him, and he's literally just creating these terrible, chaotic situations. So just because someone seems kind and nice and lovely and cares about you doesn't mean that they're not under a deep demonic delusion, okay, and doing terrible things, okay? So I'm going to talk about this dream, and it's going to then lead into, you know, why is what she's doing witchcraft, like how to recognize witchcraft when it seems so, you know, okay. Okay. Now again, so this dream is going to, it's kind of, it might be offensive, okay? It's raw, it's real. So I have the gift of dreams. God speaks to me in visions and dreams, and, you know, it really started, especially when I was living a lifestyle of fasting and praying, okay? For the past 2 years, it's been like hardcore fasting and praying and seeking the Lord. I only read the Bible. I don't learn from people. I don't listen to pastors teaching about these things. Okay, I do have a pastor, but he talks about like very normal stuff. Okay, but the dreams and visions are from God. God always confirms every dream. I really take this seriously. Okay, I would not make this video if I did not feel led, if I did not feel that this was really God speaking. Okay, and I want to add also to Mandi and to Mandi's group. You know, she says that she hears God speak to her like a voice. It's like thoughts, but her own thoughts are blocked. You know, this is not how God speaks to me. God speaks to me through the Bible. He gives scripture, very, very specific scripture, and it's very powerful. It's not just like a bunch of scriptures listed off. Jesus, like, he actually comes into my dreams and visions. He speaks to me. I hear his voice. Like, I literally hear his voice. It's not my own thoughts. And it's like, I've seen Jesus, and usually if you guys, if you, you know, if you're blessed to be able to see Jesus in dreams and visions, it's very special. It's not random, and so it's very profound. It's very reverent. And he doesn't always show his face, you know, like he doesn't really show, like he seems to be veiled often, and, you know, it's very holy, very reverent, okay? It's not like, hey, what's up, Jesus? Like, it's not like that, okay? Jesus is very holy, and he always, he's all about hierarchy. He's the master, and we are the servants, okay? And yes, also, he's our father, and we are his children as well, you know? It's not about literal children. I know people get fixated on that, but it's just about this hierarchy, okay? So we have respect for him, we have reverence for him, but he, you know, if you know what I'm talking about, if you have dreams and visions from God, you know, they're very profound. They're very, they're often very hard, okay? Hard to hear, hard to understand. Not hard to hear physically, but just hard to accept often. And they really shake the earth shaking. They, you know, shatter your ego, okay? So it's going to be a hard dream, okay? And I'm used to God speaking this way, but some people might not be used to this, okay? Depending on who's watching, okay? So this is a dream. So I'm in my own house, and so me and my family are in my house, and I'm with my husband, and it seems like Mandi and G, and I guess they have 2 dogs. In the dream, they had 2 dogs. One was black and white, and the other one, I don't remember. But I think it was like tan or something. And they come to visit her house. I know she's driving around or something, but she came to visit our house and stay over, and she's staying in one of our bedrooms, and she is like very chaotic, okay, and just like a mess, like very messy person, chaotic. I don't know if this is real, but in the dream she was very chaotic, very messy, and kind of sketchy, but I felt for her, and I was, you know, wanting to be sympathetic, and I was very on guard with her, but I allowed her to stay in our house just for a time. And my husband and I would go into her room, and again, if you have spiritual dreams, you'll know that spiritual realm is very, very symbolic. It's all about symbolism, and that's why the Bible is very symbolic, and Jesus would speak through symbolism and metaphor and parable all the time. And so her room that she was staying in, I knew that it meant a look into her personal space, and like it's almost like a reflection of your inner self, okay? And again, there's just everything strewn everywhere, very messy person. But she was talking to us like very like, you know, Mandi like very excited about whatever, but I felt very off. I felt like there's something wrong. And so I'm talking to her, and I'm pretending I'm not noticing her room, but I'm observing all these things. And this dream was extremely vivid, okay? It literally felt like real life, okay? So when you have a dream from God, you know it's a dream from God. But anyways, so I see her bed, and beside her bed, there's this life-sized, the best way I can describe it is an effigy, or like a physical representation, or a doll, like maybe a doll, but it's like, it's almost like, I know in voodoo, I don't know much about voodoo, but I do know that they use like dolls, and it was like that, but life-size, of like this man, okay? And G was there, but it's like he can't see this doll. Okay, but Mandi knows it's there, but it's almost like covered with so much stuff that it's like, I can tell that she didn't want me to notice. And I see this doll, and not a doll, but I see this man, like representation, and he's not wearing anything. And it's like maybe some like boxer, like, so it's like sewn doll, so it's like boxer sewn or something into the actual doll. And his clothing, she had taken it off, and there was especially this one robe that was like multicolored. It was a multicolored robe, and she had taken it off, and I knew, okay, as soon as I saw it, that she would take this robe and put it onto G. And I want to quickly say, I'm going to put in my description a video that's great. It's Melissa Dougherty. She's a YouTuber, and she interviews a cult specialist, and she's a Christian, she's a woman of God, and she talks about how leaders who claim they're prophets, who claim they're teachers, like official teachers, official prophets, you know, from God, Matthew 18 doesn't apply to them, okay? It doesn't apply, and it actually says in Jude, I'm going to post the video so you guys can check it out, but Jude calls us to call out false prophets, okay? So this is why I'm saying this dream publicly. I've also done Matthew 18 anyways, so I know some people will be like, this is a really like hard to listen to dream. It is hard, but it's, you know, God led me to say this dream because it's important for them to hear. It's important for anyone who will listen to hear, okay? So I see this doll, and she takes the robe off, she puts it on G, and G doesn't see what the meaning of it is or the symbolism. He just sees the robe, and he does whatever Mandi is telling him to do. So basically he's blind to the truth, but Mandi knows, and she knows it's wrong, but she is very, very enticed by this doll. It's like this, there's this deep connection with her to it, and it's like been in her life. I knew that it had been in her life since her ex, and even before that, okay? And so I noticed these things, and I looked at it about 4 times, and every single time I looked at it, it was made very, very clear to me that this doll is Belial. And I didn't know what Belial is. I would see it, and I'd see the name. And when God speaks to me, like, he often uses Hebrew or things, you know, concepts that I don't know, and he'll show me it's spelt out, okay, so that I know how to like look it up. And it's always spelled correctly, and it's always said grammatically correctly. So it's you know, it's definitely God. You know, I can't make that up if I don't know it. But I heard Belial, and I knew it was Belial, and I saw Belial, okay, and I didn't know at all what that was, but in the dream I recognized the name as being a famous being, or it wasn't even a real person, but it was a famous being that had that name, and this was like I don't know how else to say, like an effigy or like a representation of that being, and it's quite literally, like, this sounds weird, but the spirit was in it, like it represented this being, okay, and I was like, as soon as I saw that, I knew this is so bad, like this is very bad, this is not okay, this is very like it's, I don't want to say abomination because that sounds aggressive, but it was literally an abomination, okay? And I was like, this is bad. As soon as I saw that, I knew I needed to get away, okay? And I want to say too, it's really hard to explain this again, because this is like seeing into the spiritual, okay? But the clothing that she would put on it, she took off of it and put it on to G. This clothing was like of a fleshly, not a fleshly, but of a physical sense. And this doll was metaphysical. I could see it, but it was almost like hidden in her life. Like, so no one can really notice or see. Or even if they hypothetically did see it, they wouldn't understand what it is. But I knew, okay? And so she sensed, in this dream, she senses that I see this and I pick up on something being weird, and she starts like reacting. And I want to say, so in the past I've had a lot of demonic dreams. This was when I was back in the world, okay? And if you have had sleep paralysis and demonic dreams, you'll know that when you like if you're going along the dream and you sense that this is getting demonic, like I'm sure, like, if you've had this happen, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. As soon as you sense it, it's almost like it somehow like turns on the, you know, like the demonicness, okay? And like the demons or the spirit like seems to like know that you've sensed it. It was like that, okay? And that is not something that happens, you know, in dreams from God, like that are positive, that are about, you know, it's a very demonic sort of thing. And again, she was being very nice and very bubbly, like typical, like her personality. But it's almost like she was once, you know, maybe professing Christ, like maybe she was doing the right thing, but like slowly over time, she was taken by this doll, okay? And there was like a deeper and deeper connection with it, and she just can't let it go. It's almost like an idol. That is an idol. And so as soon as this all was happening, with my husband, I was like, let's get out of here. Like, let's go. Like, she's gotta, like, I was saying to him, like, she's gotta get out of this house. Like, this is not right. Like, this is not okay. We don't accept this type of thing in this house. And we really don't. We don't do that type of stuff. And so we were like ushering her out, and we're like, you know, hey, like, okay, you guys, like, I was pretending like we had to like go somewhere or something, and it was all normal, but I was like trying to get her out, because I knew that if I showed her obviously that I knew what was going on, it would be like I said, where like the demonic energy would like, somehow they know, like I said, that you notice, okay? So I was pretending like I didn't notice, and I got her out of the door, and I began to turn off all the lights in my house, and I'm like, let's look outside, and so we can, if, as you guys know, if the lights are on in the house and it's dark outside, like, everyone can see in, but, you know, if you turn off the lights, you can see easily outside. So I was turning off the lights so I can watch them, and G is like gone to the sidewalk in front of the house, like he's like, come on, let's go. She doesn't want us there, obviously, and then her two dogs are like running in circles, like, or something, like going crazy. Like, they are upset because she's at the door freaking out. Like, she's trying to get into my house like this, and she's like, what's wrong? And what, like, because she doesn't, she knows that I know. She saw when all, like, we're turning off all the lights. she saw that, she realized that I knew what she was doing. So she's like freaking out. So her dogs are freaking out. So anyway, and it's like, once that happens, the dream's like very demonic. And as soon as I see that, I like wake up. Like usually when I have like super demonic dreams, I like make myself wake up. Okay. And guys, I'm not laughing. Like I actually laugh when I get really uncomfortable. So sorry if I'm laughing. So yeah. Okay. And also I know people don't like when I wear wigs and I have my nails done, but anyway, these nails are actually like inspired by a Bible story. But anyway, the Bible refers to Satan, the Bible refers to Lucifer, and also to Belial. And scholars, they believe that they're the same person, and they're just like different names for him. Okay, so Satan, for example, means the accuser. Belial means two things. It means worthless, but it also means without a yoke. And this is really important, especially in this context. And so he's basically Satan, but there's like just like when we say Satan the accuser, it evokes this understanding of he is like a prosecutor who is constantly blaming us. In the same way, Belial refers to this Antichrist nature of him. And so in the Bible, Paul talks about Belial, and he literally compares Belial and Jesus, and he's like, they have nothing to do with each other. They're completely opposite. They are like completely opposite ends of the spectrum. It's not that they're equal. It's just, the reason why he's comparing them is because it's giving Jesus the Christ and Belial the Antichrist. Okay, so and also the name evokes this lawlessness. Okay, so lawlessness is a very important concept, and there's something. So he's in the Bible, and he's also this is also a name that's been used since literally the time of Amram and Moses. All right, so it's in the Qumran caves. It's in the Dead Sea Scrolls, and you know, if you go way, way back, it talks about, I think this is, yeah, in the Dead Sea Scrolls, it says that there's 3 nets of Belial, fornication, which is sexual immorality, wealth, and so it's like the abomination of desolation type of thing. It's the pollution of the sanctuary. And these nets are used to cast and catch people and pull them into his, his evil, whatever. And it's also there's also a lot of idolatry. So you can see that with Paul. He talks about how this spirit preaches a different gospel and leads people astray into a different gospel. Okay, and so as you can see, these are all tenets of what Mandi's teaching are. So the first one is fornication. It's sexual immorality, and it's this is why this aspect of Satan it's all about lust. It's like to pull you in. It creates this deep connection. And so it's ironic because his name means without a yoke, but to yoke something it means union of two things. So this is why it's about sex. So it's like saying union with something of no worth. Okay? And obviously we know Jesus is all about this worthiness, and Belial is literally about unworthiness. And if you don't understand what I'm saying, you can see this example in the story like Abigail and David, where she is yoked to Nabal, who's, it literally says, a son of Belial. So he is a worthless fellow, okay? And her relationship with him ends, and she turns to David, which really represents repentance, because she, prostrates herself before David, and she's like, I'm sorry for him, he's so bad, I'm coming to you, and repenting in a way, like turning from him, going to you. And of course, David represents Christ, so you see that literal union with Belial, or a son of Belial, it's like the same thing, and a union with Christ. Okay, so it's about yoking, and this is why fornication, this is why sexual immorality, and he uses wealth too. And it's no wonder that Mandi is talking about like he's gonna make your debts go away, and he's gonna give you money, and he's gonna like all this whatever. It's all about money, And of course, pollution of the sanctuary is a big one. It's the abomination of desolation. And as you guys know, this is literally the 3 tenets of the Antichrist. So the Antichrist will create union. Like it's all about union. Revelation is all about union. And Jesus' bride is Jesus and the bride and the wedding feast of the Lamb, in heaven. And then you have on earth, you have Satan and his blasphemous mirrored kingdom. Okay, he's basically trying to do the same thing as what Jesus is doing. And so he has this false bride. That's the harlot. That's the world is going to take the mark. It's all like, that's the anti-144,000. It's just like, it's a mirror. Okay, so it's literally the bride of Satan. And so there you got that fornication, that yoking to Nabal, son of Belial, like a worthless fellow. And then you also have the wealth, like he's going to bring in prosperity to the world. This is why they're all going to follow after him. And then you have the pollution of the sanctuary, which is the climax. It's the abomination of desolation, okay? And so that, in a way, is, that's really important, especially the last one, because I believe that this, the Antichrist spirit really goes after people who are in a relationship with Jesus, whether they're fully in a relationship or they're in this lukewarm, sort of middle ground area, people who claim to know Jesus. And the reason why he goes after them is because they have, the Holy Spirit is on them. The Holy Spirit is leading them to Christ. Like there is this like sort of happening in their life. So Satan can't get God, but he wants to get anointed people. He wants to get people with gifts of the Spirit even before, and I know that people like see the walk with Jesus as very black and white, and I think it's supposed to be a mystery for a reason. Like we don't know if somebody's saved, like for sure. Like we can tell by the fruit, but there does seem to be this point where it's like some people can know Jesus and yet it hasn't taken root. Like with the sowers, the seed sower parable, right? And so Mandi does claim to know Jesus. She does claim to have a relationship, and yet she was taken. Okay, and that is what the Antichrist does. He goes after lukewarm Christians. I'm also going to put Wyatt Coates' testimony in the description, and he talks like his whole testimony is about the Antichrist spirit. He was deceived by the Antichrist spirit. It was a fake Jesus, and it was a very severe, like wild version. Some people, I've heard of the spirit come up again and again recently in the past couple of years. Mandi is one of them, and it can appear very, very wild and even evil, and it can appear, but it tends to be more like Christianese type of appearing, okay? And so he talked about it. He says that lukewarm Christians are actually, the ones in that kind of state of, I don't hate Jesus, I don't even know him. Sorry, I hate Jesus or I don't even know him. And then you have the lukewarm who like know him, but they're not biblically sound. And then there's the mature Christians who recognize Jesus and who know. Like their discernment is not based off of feelings and human thinking, it's based off of actual biblical studies, okay? And of course, Satan will go after all of them, but the lukewarm are most susceptible because they cannot yet discern the voice of Jesus, okay? So Joseph Smith is an example, John Dee is an example. Those are historical examples that were smitten or taken by a spirit of Antichrist or a spirit of divination. Divination is the Antichrist. And that's a whole nother topic, but I'm not going to get into it now. It's basically the serpentine spirit. It's Satan, okay? As the Bible says, the serpent of old, right? Okay. And so it masquerades as Christ, and it will, like, if it does, speak to people, it speaks in a way that feels like Jesus. And people talk about Lori Vallow. That's a great one. It seems to be very consistent about Adam and Eve, couples, some type of marriage thing, like union, that type of stuff, okay? And that's because of, again, the yoking. It's all about, the spirit's all about yoking together. That's the Antichrist spirit. And and it's about prosperity. So I'm going to bring you up. I'm going to ascend you. I'm going to make you great. I'm going to give you all these things like heavenly blessings. Okay, this is your inheritance. You can see this with Lori again. You can see this with John D. It was all about money. Like he was trying to get these riches. They promised him all these great things. You know, they're this chosen man to get all these riches. Same thing with Wyatt Coates, another one. And then it's all about defiling. And so this is where the witchcraft part comes in. So I'm going to talk about the witchcraft that Mandi does. And I'm going to tell you guys like why what she does is wrong. I know there are people who already know it's wrong. But just for the people who think it's okay and who don't understand, I'm going to talk about that. Sorry guys, I'm just like, I'm so sleepy. So, but I want to finish this. So I might have dark circles, but anyway, so the witchcraft, so, you know, I want to specifically say Mandi, she does witchcraft, she does Enochian magic. So I won't call it witchcraft because I know but she does Enochian magic. And this is actually basically the origin of witchcraft, like modern day witchcraft. It's the root of it is paganism. And so it's the whole point of Enochian magic is to call upon, as they say, the four corners. Okay. And this is actually a taking of something biblical and turning it into something evil. And the biblical thing that it takes from is this concept of ketoret and the incense that goes from the altar up to God. And it's supposed to represent Jacob's ladder. Okay, it represents the staircase, this union of heaven and earth. So like it's literally all about union, like to bridge the gap. And this is why Enochian magic, again, is all, and pagan stuff is all about union. So you can see in paganism, they have the vessel and the sword. Okay, it's just one of a million examples of the man and the woman together. Okay, this is why Mandi's very obsessed. This spirit is always obsessed with soulmates. Wyatt Coates, you know, his spirit was all about talking about soulmates. It was a male and female demon that came to him, and he said they were stunning. Okay, he thought they were literally God, Jesus, and you know, like they were beautiful. Okay, so they didn't look scary. But it's all about this union and yoking, and so as you guys know, for Kitoret, with the incense, it represents the prayers of the saints. And this whole concept of praying to God and sending up our prayers like the incense, or literally the incense in the temple, it's this idea of invoking God. So it's calling upon God. So when you say I call upon something, you are basically, it's like taking a phone and dialing a number, and God's supposed to be on the other side. And so God has told us how to, you know, contact him. And we do that through, you know, one example of a prayer is what Jesus said with Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be your name, right? That's one way. It's crying out with our true heartfelt posture, like the, you know, tax collector in the temple. He beat his chest. He was on his face, like this is humility. Jesus also talked about fasting. Okay, so it's like emptying oneself and saying like, I deny myself, I want you, I don't want myself. So this is like a picture of the incense, like we're, you know, like our flesh is burning, we even put our failures, like, you know, our failures are burning, like, we're just like, Lord, we, you know, like, we put everything, like our old selves, we burn our old selves with, you know, and this is what like invokes God, like it's his loving kindness and mercy that comes down as a response. Like lightning, okay, the messenger is sent out, the, you know, Holy Spirit is brought down, whatever, and this is Jacob's ladder. It's an exchange, okay? And so this is what calling upon the four corners is emulating, except you're calling upon the four corners is, and this is a whole thing, and I was like debating how much I should say, but you can think about the altar of incense as having four corners, which are four horns, okay? The horns represent, like, you know, all the altars, why do they have four corners? Why do they have four horns? Because they're representing the same thing that the cherubim represent. And the cherubim, one of the cherubim they represent creation in 360. Okay, so basically the meaning of the altar, the meaning of the cherubim and all of that is supposed to be like God's vessel. So God says, the earth is my footstool, the earth, subdue the earth, right? He says that to Adam, and now it's said to Jesus. Jesus comes and subdues the earth, right? Through his love. And so you can see this picture of the earth being the four corners. It's the vessel that carries the light of God. It's literally the altar, okay? And so that's why when God comes and he appears out of his throne, he gets up and comes out, and his face is upon the earth, his gaze is there, the earth is on fire. This is the tribulation, it's judgment. And it's not, it's going to be purification. It's this purification where, everything turns into carbon. Okay, so it's almost like God saying, this is who you are carbon, you are of darkness, and those who say, yes, Lord, I am of darkness, I am of sin, and repent and say, but I want you, and cry out to the Lord, they're saved, okay? But the ones who shake their fist and say, I'm not carbon, how dare you burn me, how dare you bother me, how dare you try to purify me, I'm perfect, they're going to be burned, okay? Because they don't want to admit it. Okay, so it's like a picture of that. And so you can see that the earth, it's God's, God's look, it's almost like a picture of him looking down at the altar and he's answering, okay? He's sending his Holy Spirit, to judge or to love, right? Based on your heart. And so the four corners are literally the vessel, okay? And another way that God describes the vessel is the eye, okay? It's the woman, it's the womb of the earth. And when I say the woman, it's just a metaphor. It's a metaphor for the vessel. And so if you're invoking, if you're calling up, okay, calling upon God, you're going to receive God, okay? You're the outer looking into the center, which is the fire, okay? You're the horns looking into the fire, and you see the presence of the Lord, and you are like, I want that. I want to talk to you, God, and that's holy fire, okay? But if you're the four corners and you're the vessel and you're calling upon the four corners and you chant, like in Enochian magic, you chant fire, wind, whatever the elements are, okay? Fire, wind, earth, air or something, okay? That is you invoking, dialing, calling up the vessel instead of the center. Okay, instead of God, you're calling up the center. The vessel. And so it's you're saying I need you, so I'm going to call upon you. And, in the spiritual, this is the law. This is how it works. It's like saying if I throw a tomato off the building, it's not going to fly upward. It's going to fall onto the ground and splat. Okay. In the same way, if you're calling whatever you call up, whatever your eye is upon, right? The eye is the lamp of the body. And it's what's your oil? What's your fire that's going to light you up? Because you are the altar. You are the corners. If you're calling upon the corners as your fire and you're desiring that and laying your eye upon that, it's that becomes your fire. And that is what the first commandment commands against. That is idolatry, and that is the heart of witchcraft, okay, literally. And witchcraft is, it basically means, it's a feminine word, okay, and it's you are crafting and doing it yourself. Okay, that's quite literally the vessel, and you can be a man or woman. It's if you're creation and you're looking at creation, that is literally what 666 is. It's a man who loves themselves. It's a woman who loves themselves. Okay, and God considers that an abomination. He calls it strange fire. You are literally worshiping anything but him. Okay, so it's either him or bad. There's only two choices. So John D, this is why John D can't understand. I am trying to contact holy angels. I'm trying to contact God. I'm trying to talk to Jesus. I'm just trying to talk to Jesus. And these beautiful beings are coming and they're telling me incredible things. This must be God. And he can't understand and rectify in his brain that he's contacting demons, because God will never answer a call where you're calling upon the vessel, where you're calling upon the four corners, where you're calling upon the inferior, where you're calling upon creation and calling upon the elements, okay? He's never, never, never going to answer that. He will only answer the call that's properly, like, you can say, I want to dial up my friend, okay, over there in Tennessee, okay? I'm going to call her up and I'm going to dial just random numbers and it will be her because that's my heart and my intent. That's not enough, okay? You can't just call random people. You have to dial her number. So in that way, with God, he has clearly laid out in the Bible how he wants to be contacted, and it's through holy fire, and it's only calling upon Christ Jesus, okay? You cannot call upon earth, wind, fire. If you ever experience, like Mandi's followers, whoever, if you ever find yourself like, I'm in my heart, I love Jesus and I just want Jesus and that's my intent and my heart is so sweet and I'm just going after Jesus, and you find yourself saying earth, wind, I call upon the four corners, I call upon earth, wind, whatever, like that type of stuff, you are never going to get God. Never. Jesus, you will never get Jesus. That is witchcraft, it's idolatry, and it's literally putting your eye upon corrupt flesh, creation, etc. And so that's why when you do this thing, it's quite literally, when you invoke, something that's not of God, you are yoking yourself. So I don't know if I'll get into it, but Enochian magic, it's all about calling forth, the spirit, the ether, whatever you want to call it, doesn't matter. But it's calling forth this invisible force, and it comes through, okay? And it yokes itself to you. Like, this is literally the embodiment of the man and the woman, okay? So, like, if you don't understand man in Hebrew, he's supposed to be the spirit, okay? He's the fire. This is why we gain our spiritual influence from the man, okay? So whatever, so that's like, for example, this is why when human women slept with fallen angels, they received a fallen spirit, okay? And they received a physical, fleshly outer. Because the woman is the womb, therefore she's the flesh, and so they had humanoid flesh, physical flesh, but they had demonic spirit because the man is responsible for the spirit. Why? Because God made males to literally mean, male in Hebrew is fire. It's the same word. The word for female is, it's like saying fire manifest, okay? It's like fire, hey, fire, behold, fire manifest, okay? So it's the physical embodiment of the spiritual condition. And so, the truth is that all of creation, including male and female, is all subordinate and feminine to God. And so in that way, it's the man is the fire, and it's supposed to be God, but if you're trying to usurp God and steal from God and open portals and do all sorts of stuff and get powers, from, like, so this is like prophecy. Prophecy is being pierced by God, okay? It's God coming upon you. If you can't get that and you want a false prophecy, it's divination, which means getting your power from another source, and that would be a strange fire and therefore a demon, okay? So the demon would become the man in your life and pierce you and create union or yoking together, and together you have this abundance, okay? So it's like Nabal, and again, with Abigail, Nabal was very rich. He was a rich man. So in the same way, that's Belial. So it's the spirit of Antichrist, the spirit of Belial. It's yoking together with the worthless man. So God's like, no man but me. No leader, no master, no anything except for me. Like, he is the head. He will crush any other head. We're the tail. We're supposed to receive. We're built, as humans, we're built to receive. Okay, so anyway. So hopefully that helps explain, fundamentally why witchcraft is wrong. And this all has to do with end times too, because it's all, ultimately God's goal is covenant. It's to bring heaven and earth together, and it's this union. And so this is why, for example, the demons would tell John Dee and Edward Kelly that if they did these rituals, these Enochian chants and calls, which Mandi does, they would literally bring about the apocalypse. It would bring the apocalypse. And I won't get into it, but I actually believe they were telling the truth in a lie. Okay, and that's they were lying, but they were literally telling it. This is of the end time. So you can see, for example, Jack Parsons, he took the Enochian calls and he used it for his own, like, to manifest Babylon. Okay, like, just terrible stuff. This was back in 1947 or something, and I like, plenty of people believe that this is why the Roswell incident happened and all these, like, you know, demonic alien things happened. It's because this guy was doing Enochian magic to bring about the end times and to literally manifest Babylon. Okay, so it's he worked for NASA. Okay, so he's actually a NASA scientist. He was brilliant and unfortunately very evil stuff. So this is why Mandi is very obsessed with Enochian calls, Enochian magic, because it literally is of the end times, okay? Belial is literally of the end times. All of these, you know, and I don't enjoy studying this. I know it's like, whoa, like, why do you know so much? Like, I only study this because God tells me to. And he was like, look, this is the end times. This is why all these things are happening. So I wanted to hopefully show people, like, this is some serious stuff. Like, this is going to come up more and more, the spirit of Antichrist. I believe that Satan loves Enochian magic because it's, like, literally the magic of the end times. And it's all about ascension. It's all about feeling so good. It's about wealth, sex, you know, fornication, like, polluting the sanctuary. That's so the sanctuary, like, we are the temple. And that's another reason why he likes to go after Christians, because it's, like, more of a powerful, you know, shaking fist to God, because it's like, I got your temple and now I'm making it nasty. Like, I mean, I think that Satan also wants a temple. Like, he wants a temple to himself, and that's why he's going to take God's temple. And it goes back to when it says, you know, how Satan tried to climb up to the mountain of assembly and actually go above the stars, like, go above creation, go above everybody. He wanted to be the head. So now he's going to try to take the assembly, which is embodied by Jerusalem, embodied by the world, into, like, you know, embodied by the people of God, the Jewish people, whatever. It's all the same. It's like the assembly of God, and he's trying to sit atop of it. Okay, and again, because he wants to be the head. And so that's why this is all about you know, yoking together and standing upon as the male of the female, like, right, the vessel, you know, being the fire within. So I hope this helps. I'm very tired, so I want to go to bed, but this is the reason why I told this dream and everything is, and the witchcraft stuff, is because I wanted to just end with a clear distinction as to why this is wrong, so that there's no excuse for anyone listening to any of Mandi's followers. Like, God is clearly showing you what's wrong with what she's doing, and yet you will still continue. And God also, through this dream, like, he revealed to me that I personally need to, like, no feeling sorry for Mandi. Remove yourself from her. And this is to anyone who's commenting, who's engaging with her, who's, you know, all up in her. Like, even if you don't believe what she's saying and you are sympathizing with her in the same way in my dream, like, I, you know, felt like I didn't like the vibe of what was going on there. I didn't know at the beginning what was wrong, but I knew something was wrong. And then I eventually find out it's deeply wrong, right, with the Belial. And by the way, I think I forgot to actually say, maybe for a reason at the moment, but now that I explained the yoking, it'll make more sense. But she was literally fornicating with this doll, and it was fornicating with her through G, like, when she would put the cloak upon him. And by the way, even in the Qumran scrolls, it talks about how Belial looks like as well. And again, this is, like, outside of the Bible, but it's in the Dead Sea Scrolls, okay? But again, so take it with a grain of salt. I only like to talk about the Bible. But just for the sake of this, it literally describes him with having colorful robes, okay? So, really weird. And she was fornicating with this being through G, okay? But, and she knew it was wrong, but she was doing it anyway, and she was lying to G about it. But anyway, so So, yeah, I say all of this to warn people that if in the same way that she's yoking to demonic energy and she's like doing all these things, if you're taking part in her and she's, you know, in your life or, you know, involved with you in any way, like God will strike her. Like this is not good. Like God is very, it's not, I'm not going to say too much on that, but God will do what he says in the Bible with these type of things. And it's, you know, whoever is taking part of her, it's the same thing as Babylon. You might as well say she's Babylon if she's fornicating with this spirit, you know. And so come out of her, you know, stop engaging, stop talking to her, even if you think you're helping. You know, this is what God was showing me. It's like even sympathy, like stop engaging with her, because it's like with her and whoever is involved will be part of that. And you know, it's literally a spirit of yoking together. So if you're yoked together with her in any way, like this is not good. Like people need to leave her to God. So this is a warning. This is just hopefully edification. And I'm sorry for being very wordy and tired, but God bless and have a wonderful day.